Saint-Germain versus Real Madrid. Be there when it happens. Grab your tickets now at viva.com/tickets. MetLife Stadium. The world is watching.
Wait, I want lip gloss. I want my lip gloss.
Saturday and Sunday on Fox. Welcome to the fastest racing on earth. Bryce Harper leads the Phillies against the Padres, or Corey Seager and the Rangers take on the Astros. Saturday at 7:30 Eastern on Fox. The MLB All-Star Game on Fox. Here we go. Every ride on the side like every the parties don't stop till 8 in the morning. Which word below doesn't have an identical match? 50% of the people we polled answered that correctly. If you got that wrong, welcome to the Dumb House. So 1% wrong. All you Tuesdays on Fox. And watch anytime on Hulu.
I wish I didn't have work so I can wear this hair out today.
On the straw and extracts a DNA profile. That profile is compared to semen from the Reynolds crime scene and determined to be
Hey y'all.
probably the best moment I've had.
Wow, I got 46 people in this live, y'all. Drop what I should do to my hair. I have an idea, but
2 weeks later, Grandy stops by Sixby's house with a lab report in his back pocket and a casual, even bored demeanor. We We didn't want to get him thinking that he was in any trouble. Just it was a routine thing, so that he would, be willing to give us a statement or at least talk to us. At his kitchen table, Donald Sixby signs a statement saying he did not know Regina Reynolds and never had sex with her. Brandy then pulls out the lab report and asks Sixby how his DNA got inside Reynolds' body. One of the words out of his mouth, several of the words were, "How do you have anything to compare me with?" And once he came up with that, I said, "Oh, we went to dinner about a week ago. I happened to be the guy behind you. He picked up your straw and cup." And at that point, he became adamant and asked us to leave and watch out of my house. The detective leaves, with Donald Sixby right beside him in cuffs. The suspect is taken to county jail and charged with the murder of Regina Reynolds. At Donald Sixby's trial, District Attorney Bill Fitzpatrick trots out a line he's been holding in reserve his entire career.
As I said to the jury, I said, folks, I've been trying cases for 25 years, and I've always wanted to say to a jury, this defendant left his calling card at the scene of the crime. Well, here he did. He actually did leave his calling card at the scene of the crime.
Sixby's business cards place him at the Reynolds crime scene. It's his DNA, however, that has put him in the dock for murder.
And the other things were nice. The business cards were certainly huge.
The case goes to a jury on March 26th, after less than a day of deliberation. 12 men and women return a verdict.
Woo.
The guilty verdict appears to come as a shock to Sixby. His sentence, 25 years to life. Essentially, a life sentence for the 68-year-old.
You're an evil, violent man. It is time for you to face your past. The awful truth and reality of what you have done.
Donald Sixby is packed off to a prison cell to live out his days. Meanwhile, investigators grapple with the idea that Donald Sixby is not just a murderer, but perhaps a serial killer. In the Sixby evidence files is an address card, pulled from the killer's workshop 29 years ago. It contains the name of a young woman, Martha Allen, found murdered 2 years before Regina Reynolds.
What are the chances that you would check someone's Rolodex and there'd be not a single name on it, just a blank Rolodex, except for one name, Martha Allen? And that's what happened with Sixby's case.
Ken Dentz is a state police investigator working the Allen case. By chance, Dentz grew up with Martha and was even a pallbearer at her funeral.
Okay, so what are we gonna do to this hair though?
It's strange, but it helps a lot too because you've got like an instant background. What happened? What she was like, that helps out.
I don't stop.
Martha was about the same age as Regina Reynolds. Like Regina, she also was last seen walking along a rural road. And like Regina, she was dumped in the wilds of upstate New York. Unfortunately for Dentz, the swamp that held Allen's body also destroyed any possible forensic evidence that might shed light on her killer.
Cases that are this old, it's either loose lips or a conviction on another case where somebody decides just to clean their slate, something like that.
Though Dentz is not ruling out other suspects, Donald Sixby is his obvious focus, and that is just the beginning. According to New York State investigators, they have recently identified several murders from the 1970s, all involving female hitchhikers along New York's Route 20, all fitting Sixby's pattern of attack. Among the victims, Terry Fuller, Paula Burke, and Kathy Kalachik.
There's very little doubt in my mind that he is responsible for the death of other women in Central New York. He was 40 years old when he killed Regina Reynolds. My experience tells me that you don't start the becoming a killer at 40, particularly the nature of this crime.
1 second, they're a neighbor you like. The next, they're a neighbor you trust. Actually, no problem. 1 second, you're worrying about your home. And then, thanks to ADT, there's a lot less to worry about. Feel secure enough to let others in. With Trusted Neighbor from ADT.
Alright.
A family business on the brink.
Figure it out. What do you mean figure it out?
And a kitchen staff with no standards.
You should get straight. I'm done.
Oh my God. Feeling what?
Gordon Ramsay's Secret Service, all new tonight on Fox.
Unique car series goes in the aisle. 2 races in 2 days. Where Alex Below was to continue his historic season. Saturday and Sunday on Fox. Welcome to the fastest racing on earth.
The MLB All-Star Game on Fox. Here we go.
It's the 2025 Women's Euros. Imagine this: 70,000 plus screaming their lungs out like it's a
This is crazy.
for ovation. But this is bigger. This is when the names on the back play for the press on the front. Saturday at 2:30 Eastern on Fox.
Do you see this hair? Like, this is nuts.
Get this up front, Jim. 3 words I don't want to hear from you. I don't remember. When you with a young lady who dies, that's not something I don't remember. The consensus is everyone is without a doubt you were responsible for what happened to Carol. Look behind you. This is a freaking Rottweiler. Okay, it's about to bite you in the ass. Are you sorry you killed Carol? That's all I'm asking, Jim. You're sorry, aren't you? I can say you're sorry, Jim. That's all it's going to take. Just before midnight, a young man slips down a suburban street, heading home. Jerry Irwin is 17 years old and getting in late from a date. Once inside the house, he is surprised to find his parents still awake and concerned, not about Jerry, but his half-sister, 16-year-old Carol.
I knew when Carol didn't come home in a couple of hours, like she said, I'll be back. I won't be gone long. I knew that something was wrong.
She never, not that I can really remember, ever got in trouble for not coming home or calling in when she was not going to be there when she was supposed to be. Carol Hutto's 10 p.m. curfew has come and gone without a call. Now Norma Hutto and Jerry head out into the night, seeking out Carol's friends, asking questions at the local teen.
We can't pronounce too many bowls of that green, no lucky charm. Too much. Parents ain't.
Alright, I want to put this on my story real quick. Hold on, y'all.
To a house under construction, and a small lake sat behind it. And I just kind of glanced out at the lake.
My city, fuck had her and it's frozen while eating the blizzard. See me better, I know you for shit. Niggas post on the gram, I ain't see in the minute. For life in a joke, and they question and tribute. Fuck, from out of my body amphibian. Money sick with
Looking closer,
money sick with double its dividends, bitch.
I saw
But again, I was strong in the rain. Text me once, I know off by the way. Get the call coming clean, so I know that you're straight. When it's top of the blade, no Simon that says I ain't level on nobody's page. Stars align, see the solo clip. Money on time, I can't wait for the switch. I've been with gangs since we came out the clip. Y'all take the trick and then change for a bitch. But again, I was stronger than rain. Teach me once I'm away. Keep the car coming clean so I know that you're straight. When it's time for the blame, you know Simon.
Hold on.
And I said, Jerry, what's wrong? And he just stared. And
yes, I love rap.
And I said, Jerry, what's wrong? And he said, we gotta go, Daddy. We got to keep her.
Irwin leads his stepfather back to the lake. The two also called the Largo police. We went down there and I showed the officer.
Oh my God, thank you. Now let me get some right here. You're so nice.
My world come crashing down. I mean, just totally come crashing down.
My favorite rapper
is removed from the water, and police begin to
I like this underground rapper.
The
His name
first
is
person
Beretta.
they want to talk to, her half-brother, Jerry, who, in addition to finding the body, has a history of
Yo, tap in
with
with him.
the law. I wasn't a goody-goody kid.
Seriously,
I did
though.
things wrong. You know, all kids do stupid things. So
He's up and coming for real.
Irwin tells police he had spent the night at a girlfriend's.
I can't even put a comb through his hair. Like, yo, my hair be acting like it's kinky, but it's not. Like, I got like two straight hair, but it's so hard to brush.
A red flag, marking the teenager as their #1 suspect. They came right out and told me I did it. They know I did it. And it's like an interrogation. They try to wear you down. They try to make you go ahead and confess. And I didn't do this. I wasn't going to confess to something like that I didn't do. As Irwin sweats at a police station, forensic work on the body begins. The coroner determines Carol Hutto was strangled, causing her most likely to pass out, but not killing her.
His name is Beretta.
A large burn
Beretta.
on her thigh,
B-R...
no,
B-A-R-E-T-T.
still alive.
Something like that.
From Hutto's body, the
I'm trying to
coroner
think what I should
collects
do to
3
my hair.
hairs believed to belong to someone other than the victim.
I definitely want to do
A
2
4th
buns.
unidentified hair is collected from Hutto's blue jeans. The hairs are compared to half-brother Jerry Irwin's, but tests prove inconclusive. In the 1970s, little else can be done with the hair. It is packaged up and put into storage. In time, the Carol Hutto murder goes cold, with Largo's #1 suspect left to twist in the wind. A lot of my friends quit talking to me, and I made new friends, and honestly I did, but a lot of the people that I knew, they wanted nothing to do with me. Carol Hutto's mother is left to deal with the reality that her daughter is
I think
dead,
I'm gonna try something
and
different.
that police believe her own son could be the killer.
I wanted answers. I needed answers. The whole family needed answers, but we weren't getting any. Every time you asked something or you started something, it fell right back to Jerry. Christmas at Granny Hutton's.
For nearly 20 years, Carol Hutto's homicide remains unsolved, until a Largo desk cop gives the case a second look. In March of 1994, Officer Brad Hoyes is injured at a work accident and assigned a desk job. With little ado but push paper, Hoyes asks permission to review the cold homicide files. The oldest unsolved case in Largo, Florida, is the murder of Carol Hutto. Hoyes reads through the original reports and begins asking himself questions.
From what I can tell, the entire focus of the investigation, the half-brother that found Carol's body. And I really couldn't find a reason why at the time.
It's called tunnel vision, an unyielding focus on a single suspect that sometimes skews a homicide investigation and allows important leads to slip away. Hoyes pulls the Hutto evidence from storage and finds what he believes might be just such a lead in the form of the victim's personal diary.
So I open it up, and it begins about a month before her death. And I'm thinking, there's gotta be something in here that tells us, at least leads us to a suspect, because this is more than likely a crime that was committed by someone she knows and was relatively comfortable with.
A few pages into the diary, Carol Hutto writes about her secret romance with a classmate named Jimmy Kim. Carol claims she is in love with Kim, and that they often meet by the lake where Hutto's body was found. I finally got to a point where it said, I met Jimmy at the lake, and it just was too close to home. And, that's where her body was found. It was right next to the house that we believe the crime occurred in. Police are about to take a look at a new suspect, Carol Hutto's high school sweetheart, Jimmy Kim. But first, they have to apologize to an old suspect, the victim's half-brother, Jerry Irwin.
My reaction, honestly, it wasn't good enough. It's never going to be good enough. You screwed up my life, but I've got to get over it and I've got to go on.
Ooh. Oh my god, yo. Why you so nice? L42. Yeah, you a real one. You a real one. You a real one. Thank you so much.
Brad Hoyes calls fellow detective Mike Short and tells him about the diary entries.
So it was a surprise to actually find out that she is speaking about an individual in a manner that established they had a relationship, and her desire to be with him, and the fact that he treated her oftentimes not very well, and how she felt about that. Places they would go, how they would meet, sneaking out, avoiding the fact that anybody knew they were meeting.
Hoyes believes that Carol Hutto has named her killer. Detective Short is intrigued, but realizes they have nothing save the diary and a theory. The two detectives dig deeper into the original investigative files. In 1976, Jimmy Kim was questioned as a friend of Carol's and denied seeing or speaking to the victim on the night she was killed. 18 years later, cold case detectives notice a discrepancy between Kim's statement and what the Hutto family originally told police.
When the investigator interviewed the Hutto family, they informed the investigator that on the night Carol went missing, she received a phone call from Jimmy Kim. When Jimmy Kim was asked about that in 1976 during his interview, he denied ever calling Carol on the night she went missing.
I answered the phone and he said, Mrs. Hutto, this
Have a
is
great
Jim.
day.
Can I speak to Carol?
You're so nice.
And I said, yes, just a minute. And they talked for a little bit, and then they hung up. And shortly, maybe 15 minutes, he called again, and she told him she was leaving.
Cold case detectives believe they have caught Jimmy Kim in a lie. Now they want to shake him up and see what else falls out. But first, they have to find him.
Jimmy Ken works here as a petty officer on a Navy submarine. In July of 1994, Largo detective Mike Short visits the 11-year veteran to talk about an 18-year-old murder.
But she wasn't dating anybody that you knew of then, or seeing somebody, or having interest in anybody?
I don't know if she's seen anybody really steady or anything like that, you know. We used to hang around a lot, but I don't think I remember.
Can you tell me anything at all about her? I mean,
I don't, to be honest, I don't remember why. I hardly remember the area.
Investigators show Ken excerpts from Carol Hutto's diary and ask if he doesn't want to rethink his statement.
The fact that she had a diary surprised him. And then to read excerpts, Carol's words, things that she wrote about him, and the way he treated her, obviously affected him.
I don't honestly know what happened to her. But I want to know is, were the two of you together that night? And was she okay when you left? That's what I want to know. Yes.
He admitted that he had been with Carol on the night she went missing. That was a significant admission. And we knew at that time we had our suspect.
Almost 20 years after the fact, Short believes he has identified Carol Hutto's killer. Proving it, however, is another matter altogether. In 1996, forensic DNA is beginning to make its presence felt in police labs across the country. Mike Short has several unknown hairs from the Hutto crime scene and wants to run genetic tests. What he lacks, however, is a sample of Jimmy Kin's DNA. Detectives will need to secure Kin's blood via a search warrant, and they decide to make the most of their time with the suspect.
If we're going to serve a search warrant on Jimmy Ken, then use that opportunity for an interrogation as well.
Detective Short decides to bring in reinforcements in the form of the Naval Criminal Investigative Service, or NCIS. The hope is that the Navy shield might intimidate Ken and push him into a confession. On July 15, 1998, Detective Short waits outside a police interrogation room. Inside, Navy criminal investigators Thomas Emos and Dave Early sit down with their murder suspect, Petty Officer Jim Kin. After issuing the warrant and collecting a blood sample, Asimos and Early begin the hard talk. From the outset, Asimos leaves no question as to whether or not Kin committed the murder of Carol Hutto.
And Jim, not only me, but really the consensus is everyone is really without a doubt you were responsible for what happened to Carol.
In reality, detectives have no physical evidence linking Kin to the crime. But that doesn't stop them from bluffing and hoping Kin takes a false step.
We can place you at spots, okay? And unfortunately for you, the spots we can place you at, there's no other conclusion you can come to than you were there when certain events occurred.
For half an hour, Kin sits silent as
as
investigators give him just two choices. Admit that the murder was an accident, or by his silence acknowledge that it was intentional.
You're focused on the wrong thing, okay? You're focused on the wrong thing. You're sitting out in your yard, and you got this tree growing, and it looks like it's dying, and you're saying, man, I hope I don't wake up one day and that tree falls in the house. And I'm telling you, look behind you, because you're a freaking Rottweiler, okay? It's about to bite you in the ass. All right? You need to focus.
Jim, you really can put this behind you. It's time. It's time for everybody.
It's simple, Jim. You're sorry, or you did it intentionally. That's all I'm asking. I don't need, Jim, are you sorry you killed Carol? That's all I'm asking, Jim. You're sorry, aren't you? I can say you're sorry, Jim. That's all it's going to take.
We know that you didn't do this to happen.
You didn't do this intentionally, did you? It was a mistake, right? You didn't plan it. Jim? It's a mistake, wasn't it, Jim? It's an accident. That's what we need to explain.
First, just gotta get it out.
Without a shred of physical evidence, NCIS agents are able to bring their murder suspect to his knees as he wipes away the tears and explains how he killed his girlfriend.
It was an accident. The only reason I went to the lake was to try to cover it up. I understand.
Jim. We understand that. How did she get hurt in the house?
We were playing around and started chasing each other. She tripped and fell.
Okay. What happened then?
She was unconscious. I didn't hear a heartbeat or anything. And I tried to cover it up like it was something else or somebody else.
What did you do then?
Someone took her clothes off.
Okay.
Took her up by the leg.
What did you do with her down by the lake?
Put her in the water. Then I just put a bunch of rocks on top of her and I took off.
Despite Jimmy Kinn's tears, cold case detectives believe he is still lying. The injuries to Carol Hutta's neck and head speak not to an accidental trip and fall, but to blunt force trauma and strangulation. James Kinn is charged with murder and eventually convicted.
On case number 98-12339, I do adjudicate Mr. Kinn guilty. I sentence him to life in prison without the possibility of parole for 25 years.
For Norma Hutto, no amount of years is enough. No measure of justice capable of balancing the scales. Or adequate defense for the life of her only daughter.
Now, I don't think he should ever get out of prison. He didn't give her the chance to get out of the lake. So I don't think he should ever get out. He took my baby. He took my only daughter. And for that, I think he should stay where he is for the rest of his life.
Up until 12 o'clock, you can visit your family. 96, thank you.
I want it to be over. He was given death in this case, so he needs to be put to death. It needs to be finished.
He is not guilty of what he's charged with. He is not guilty of the things that give rise to the death penalty.
Johnson is one of the worst individuals I've ever come in contact with. He just hates life. He hates people.
Killing does not make killing okay. Two wrongs don't make a right.
Cold, cowardly, callous. Michael Dwayne Johnson witnessed my brother's death, so now I'll witness his.
Someone called, and I was stunned.
We're now walking into the Texas execution chamber. This is where all the lethal injections in Texas have taken place over the last many years since 1982.
The state of Texas is preparing for an execution. It will be the 22nd in 2006.
My name is Michael Johnson. We're going to Texas death row on 29.
The condemned man is Michael Dwayne Johnson.
My execution date is tomorrow.
In 24 hours, Johnson will be put to death for his role in the murder of a man named Jeff Wetterman.
Jeff was 6'7". He was a big guy, and he was just full of life. He had a great spirit, a big smile, and just a huge personality.
He was, just a gentle giant. He was the largest of the three brothers, but he was the most humorous and probably the most compassionate.
Jeff Wetterman's family has been waiting 11 years for justice. Now they will be making the trip to witness Michael Johnson's execution.
I'm gonna go to Huntsville, and hopefully we'll go in, and Michael Johnson will be put to death. and we'll all walk out of there okay.
There's 2 witnessing rooms for the inmate and victim's family. This first room nearest to the inmate's head is where the victim's family will stand and watch the execution, so that if the inmate turns, he's looking right at the victim's family. Right on the other side, separated by a wall, this is where the inmate's family is, so that when he looks down, he can see his own family assembled here. The 2 families never actually see one another interact. We don't want any kind of a conflict. They're already going through enough. There's already enough emotions there, and we completely separate.
Michael Johnson's family is also making the trip to death row.
Well, we're just going down to a motel room to wait for my son to be executed. I like to say murdered. I mean, that's the way I feel about it. I don't think people have the right to take life, even the state. They're just as guilty as the people they're killing. And since Michael had proof that he didn't do it, they're guilty.
The Johnson family believes that Michael is innocent, but can they prove it in time to save his life?
We always have hope. Nothing is certain until it's done. Nothing. God works miracles.
Our state should be embarrassed that we're executing someone without giving them a fair trial.
Defense attorney Greg White will spend the next 24 hours working on emergency appeals to stay the execution.
And so we have papers sitting at the United States Supreme Court waiting to be decided. We have a petition for executive clemency waiting for Governor Perry to make a decision. And, we are alert to anything that might happen.
People every day that face the death penalty profess their innocence to leave, even in the face of overwhelming odds.
Mike Freeman helped prosecute Michael Johnson. He has no doubt the state got it right.
There was never any doubt the evidence was overwhelmingly convincing. This dastardly deed was done by Michael Johnson.
Daybreak on Interstate 35 near the small town of Lorena, Texas. The lives of Jeff Wetterman and Michael Johnson are on a collision course.
I remember that morning, Jeff waking up and saying, "Oh no, I'm late,"
Jeff is late for work at his father's gas station, the Lorena Fast Time. Michael Johnson and a friend are joyriding down the freeway in a stolen Cadillac.
911, what's your emergency? She came on work at the Lorraine Fest. I'm in Lorraine, Texas, and the kid that was stopping me has just been shot by somebody that came up here. I got gas and drove over. So it's Rockies. No, ma'am, he just got gas, and I think they just took off with the gas. Oh, my God.
Out of all the homicides I've ever worked, this was the most senseless.
Detective Mike Nicoletti. It was his case.
Jeff was the type of individual that if someone came in and they needed a tank of gas and I had no money, he'd give it to them.
Okay, was the person black or white? He was a white young man with blonde hair. I didn't get a good look at him. Was he by himself? No, man, there was somebody driving. I think I had him shot. What does the car look like? What color?
A description of the car and the suspects hit the airwaves statewide. Within 24 hours, police got a tip from a confidential informant on the outskirts of Dallas.
2 individuals had been talking about committing a crime fitting the description of the one that had occurred in Lorena. The names of these 2 individuals were Mike and David, and that was the only thing the informant knew. But he did give their street that they lived on.
Police follow the lead to the 5200 block of Edgeworth Drive. They find the stolen Cadillac parked in a lot on the corner. Down the block, they find the front door of Michael Johnson.
I have my headphones on in my room, and my dad comes to the police right there. They're looking for me.
Johnson flat told me that he hadn't been anywhere, for the last few days. He'd been staying at his house. Never left.
Until nothing told him I was at home. I don't know nothing. My brother's been in prison. He's been 20 years in prison. I got some cousins in prison. I knew when you first don't say nothing about nothing, and you don't never snitch on anybody.
The same day, police put the color on the second suspect, 17-year-old David
I'm gonna
Vest.
keep it, y'all.
Vest,
I'm gonna keep
complete
it, y'all.
opposite end of the spectrum from Johnson. As we're walking out the house with him, he's already trying to tell us what happened.
Let me put some
David Vest
coconut
gave
oil
a
on these
detailed
ends now.
statement, pointing the finger at Michael Johnson.
He told me that he was celebrating his birthday, that Johnson had suggested that they go to the coast in the stolen Cadillac that they had possession of. When they got to the south side of Waco, they realized they didn't have any gas. They had about $4 between them. Johnson and Vest pulled into this drive and pulled up to the far end of these pumps. Vest got out of the car, pumped the gas. The last thing in the world they expected was for someone working in the convenience store to come outside and just engage them in conversation. Vest said what was going through his mind was, what are we going to do to steal this gas? And he's a pretty big guy. And when Vest finishes pumping the gas, he hangs the nozzle up, and Johnson shoots Whitaker in the face. Vest said he was as shocked as anybody. He didn't realize he was going to do that. Matter of fact, in my interview with Vest, he said that after the shooting had taken place, he had broken down and cried because he was so scared, and Johnson made fun of him.
The prosecution's key witness, David Vest, swore in to testify against his good friend, Michael Johnson. Vest cut a deal with the state, 8 years for aggravated robbery, in exchange for his testimony against Michael Johnson. Vest told the court how he and Johnson got the 9mm Ruger used in the shooting. David Vest wasn't the only one talking. Friends of Johnson and Vest testified that Johnson had bragged about committing the murder.
Michael Johnson told them that he had shot a man in the head at a gas station attendant, dropped like a rock. And he laughed about it. He thought it was funny.
At trial, Johnson kept his mouth shut. His defense maintained he never even made the road trip with David Vest.
Yeah, well, that was my lawyers. They come up with this alibi saying I wasn't even there. And so they put it on. But then at the end, they kind of changed it and started talking about, well, even if he was there, it couldn't happen this way. And they were right that it couldn't happen the way they were saying. But it just made everything else look like we were full of that's what it did.
DNA linked Johnson to the stolen Cadillac, and surveillance video showed Vest and Johnson together on the road on the day of the murder.
They got him in the car. They got him videotaped down in different areas. He was there. There's no doubt about it.
Sheila Roberson was one of 12 called upon to decide Michael Johnson's fate.
No doubt it's a horrible decision to make, but that was our job to do, and we were given that job, and we had to follow through. When the punishment was read, Johnson's mother stood up and yelled her son's name. Johnson then screamed obscenities to the jury and Wetterman's family as he was escorted to jail.
I was pissed because the whole courtroom was quiet. Everybody was staring at you. You know, I was mad already. My mother was crying. I made me mad.